Hey everybody, welcome back to another Flash recap and review. Today we're talking about Season 6, Episode 3, entitled Dead Man Running. If you have not seen this episode, stop watching this video right now, go watch it on cwtv.com, and then come back and watch this video, because we are talking full spoilers. Alright, let's get into it. So like last week, this episode has 3 main storylines. And also, like last week, there are 2 stories that I found more interesting and then 1 that I didn't really care for. So I'm going to talk about them individually because that's easier. The first main story of this episode is that Barry and Killer Frost are teaming up on a case where it looks like some kind of metahuman attacked these people, and this metahuman looks like a zombie, and not just any zombie, it looks like a zombie created by Ramsey Russo, Bloodwork, which we saw in the last episode. During this case, Barry's trying to prepare Killer Frost for the coming crisis because he wants to get everybody at the right level so they can help him fight this crisis. And he sees that she's got an anger problem and he wants to really help her get rid of those anger issues, like deal with those anger issues, right? So they team up. But as they're on this mission and Barry mentions that this person that attacked these people is looking for dark matter, a light bulb goes off in Killer Frost's head and she goes after Ramsey Russo directly because she knew that he was looking for dark matter, but of course Barry didn't. So to Barry, this is like, whoa, why are you just attacking this guy? We have no reason to attack this guy. But she knows the truth, so of course she's skeptical. But then Barry decides he wants to work with Ramsey Russo to try and solve this problem, this crime, whatever. And what he doesn't know is that Ramsey Russo is actually after dark matter himself. So he brings him to Star Labs, and while he's in Star Labs, he tries to steal dark matter, and Barry catches him. And it leads to this exchange where Ramsey Russo is kind of trying to appeal to Barry and like, yo, we're both kind of dying here, so, you know, maybe you can let me use this just to help my problems, solve my disease, because he tries to also appeal to him in that level, like, I lost my mom, I had to watch her not fight this disease, I don't want to go out like that. And then Barry's like, yeah, I lost my mom too. And he's like, so you got to understand, but like, it's not the same circumstances, right? But it was interesting to see how Ramsey Russo was trying to like appeal to Barry emotionally. And there are a few good quotes in this exchange. The ones that stood out to me were when he said, Barry, you're a dead man. So like he saw it in his eyes. He could see that Barry is also on his way to die. And so it leads to him trying to like appeal to him. And also he says, it must have been hard to tell him, referring to the rest of the Star Labs team, where he doesn't know that Barry didn't tell everybody, which I think was interesting because you see him kind of look off. Barry's like, oh yeah, well, I didn't actually tell them. So that leads to something later, which I'll get into. We then see this zombie come into Star Labs and attack Ramsey, but then it turns out that Ramsey can't control the zombie. Like, you see them moving and they're like kind of following each other's motions. So we can see that his powers are like, he can infect people and then he can control them once they're infected. So it's going to be interesting to see where this leads. And the resolution to this was actually kind of funny because they put the zombie in the pipeline and this zombie just bursts through like it's nothing. And I think this is like the first metahuman, but he's not technically a metahuman. He's like a product of metahuman, but I think this is like one of the first people to like burst out of the pipeline jail, like from just raw strength. But then again, it's because he's not a metahuman, so it didn't really have an effect on him. But that was a cool scene. And then we see the metahuman guy explode, the zombie explode, because Caitlin decides, or Killer Frost realizes that if he overloads on black matter, he's gonna burst. And so he bursts and it's just like goop everywhere. And I thought that was a really gross, weird scene. I was like, ooh. But it was an interesting resolution to the story. And I think out of the 3 stories, this was probably the strongest by like a little bit. It was interesting to see Caitlin, Killer Frost and Barry interacting. Again, I'm not totally sold on this Killer Frost trying to live a normal life thing, but I also did like seeing this angle of her accepting the fact that this crisis is coming, and that the way she put it was really interesting, that she finally gets to live the life she wanted. Like, she's not trapped in Caitlin all the time now. She can actually live her life, but now all of a sudden she gets this life and it's about to be taken away from her already because of this crisis. So she has to deal with that. She's angry, understandably, but Barry's like, yeah, we get it, but this is what we have to deal with every day. There's always a meta, there's always somebody coming to ruin our good life. So it's something we all have to deal with. And I thought that was a really nice moment between them. So again, I would say this was the strongest story of the episode. And then the second story, which I was really interested in, but I don't think got enough screen time, was the entrance of a new Wells. We have Harrison Nash Wells, who's like a treasure hunter, it looks like, an intergalactic treasure hunter. And Iris and Cisco are on his tail. They see signs of him because Allegra, from the last episode actually, who's now working for Iris at her blog newspaper, she sees images of this Wells skulking around Central City, and she's like, Harrison Wells is still alive. But of course, we all know the original Harrison Wells is gone, but there are, of course, many, many versions of him throughout the multiverse. So as audience members, we're like, oh yes, new Wells. And of course, she doesn't know yet, but I feel like they're gonna eventually have to tell Allegra that there's a multiverse. I don't know if they're gonna go as far as to tell her about Barry being the Flash. Maybe if he does eventually die or disappear in the crisis, they may have to. But as of right now, I'm not totally sure. But Iris, as of right now, kind of tells Allegra, hey, I can't tell you everything right now, but you just have to trust me because I took a leap of faith with you, so I want you to do the same with me. But anyways, we see this new Wells, and he immediately attacks Cisco, which of course, Cisco even makes a reference to it that whenever there's a new Wells, there's always a clash between Cisco and the new Wells. And he's like, eventually we're gonna be friends, so let's just get to that part. And this guy's like, no, I don't care. And uses the smoke bomb and escapes. Now he's going after something called Eternium. I have no idea what that is. I gotta do some research and figure that out. Like if that's something from DC Comics or this is something new, some new science mumbo jumbo they're making up. But I'm also interested to see how this Wells is gonna play into Crisis, because I have a feeling what he's looking for is gonna play a part in it. But I am interested in to see this new Wells, of course, because Tom Cavanaugh is a great actor. We already know this, and he plays so many different characters in the CW Arrowverse. So I'm interested to see what he does with this new version of Wells. But again, like I said, they didn't really spend that much time on it. They spent a lot more time on these two other storylines, which were Caitlin and Barry's storyline, and then this third storyline that I'm about to get into. But I do hope to see more of Harrison Nash Wells, because he definitely looks like a very interesting version of Wells. And then actually another funny thing about him is that he knows about the Council of Wells, but he thinks they're a bunch of losers, which is kind of funny. But at the same time, he's not totally wrong, because they're not like the best versions of Wells, at least in my opinion. But it was funny that he kind of poked fun at them. And then we have the third story, which for me was the weakest, but they spent about, I would say most of the time was dedicated to the whole blood work thing, and then a little bit of the Wells, and then the rest of it was this storyline, which I didn't care for as much, which was Cecile and Ralph are trying to prove the innocence of his mom, who apparently was at the scene of the crime for this robbery or something. She says, no, I wasn't there, I was doing blah, blah, blah. And so they go to this other place that she allegedly was at, this gambling ring, whatever, and they try and find evidence that she was there, and they try to get security camera footage. And in order to get this footage, the guy is like, you have to pay me this amount of money because I don't give this stuff out for free, blah, blah, blah. So they decided, well, we're gonna earn the money, but in the time that they have, they're not gonna be able to earn all this money. So they instead just use the game of, I'm gonna assume it was blackjack, to distract the people around them while Ralph sneaks in and gets this security footage. And then he gets the security footage to find that his mom is innocent, whatever, and then finds out that she lied about an ex-boyfriend that he was really close to, and she said that this guy died, but he actually was alive, and you see him with flowers and her talking outside of this club that they were in. So it turns out Ralph's mom has been telling him all these years that every time one of her lovers is gone, it's because they've died, not just because they've broken up, whatever. And this is because apparently his dad left, and it really broke him. So she decided, you know what, it's better to just tell Ralph that these people died, that we didn't just break up or they left. Which to me is like a really weird leap in logic. So telling your son that someone that he is close to died is much worse than telling him that they just left or that you broke up with them, whatever. It didn't make sense why she would go with that. And that really took me out of it. That was really weird. Now, they do have a sweet moment, Ralph and his mom, about talking about these things, right? And he gives her a little book, like a mini version of his Ralph rules, whatever. And I mean, that was a sweet moment, but overall, this was not necessary. I feel like this is definitely the weakest part of the episode. And every time they went to this part, I was like, all right, let's get back to the new Wells, or let's get back to the blood work stuff. So if this wasn't in the episode, I would totally be fine, but I think this is just mostly filler to fill up the time slot, whatever, because I guess they didn't have enough Wells stuff yet, or they're choosing to hold back. So overall, I would say this episode was fine, I think. I mean, it's still very early, so I can't really say whether it's like the best or the worst of the season, but for me, I would say it's probably the weakest so far, but it's not unwatchable. It's nowhere near season 5 bad. So this is definitely a fine episode. And again, I look forward to seeing, oh, wait, I forgot the biggest part of the episode. Barry and Iris finally tell the rest of the group that Barry is going to die during the crisis because they realize that it's not fair that everybody just keeps going along not knowing the truth of what's happening. And now that they know that Barry is dying, then they'll work that much harder and everybody will fight that much harder to resolve the crisis. But anyway, like I said, overall, I think this episode was it wasn't the best, but it was nowhere near the worst. So I would say you could still watch it, and I may go back and watch it, when the show or the season's over, but who knows. But I do look forward to seeing where this all leads in terms of going towards Crisis on Infinite Earths. So, did you see The Flash this week? What did you think? Let me know down in the comments. Also, don't forget to like this video, share it, and subscribe. Thanks for watching. I will see you in the next one.